Welcome to the Conquerors Podcast. My name is Manish Kata, and with me, like most weeks, I have Jeff Goodnow. How are you, sir?
Hola, I am doing good.
Peachy keen,
Where
peachy keen. Like
absolutely,
that's your
man,
line.
absolutely. So
All
it's a
right.
it's a beautiful day. It's like 75 outside. Can't wait to get out there.
All right. Looking. So we're talking about RIA testimonials this week. We let all the compliance people have their webinars for the first couple months of the year. We wanted to jump in and give our 2 cents. First and foremost, let's get a couple things out the way. We are not compliance experts. Yes, I'm the CCO of this firm, but we still have attorneys and compliance people that we rely on to make sure we have the necessary information to act on. So do not take any of this as compliance advice. We use Max at Stark and Stark as our corporate attorney, RIA registrar out of Iowa as consultants. We're more than happy to refer you to people. But this is just two knuckleheads talking about what we think about the testimonial rule. And once again, it's not compliance advice. So now that's out the way. So there was a new amendment that was announced middle of December about a new advertising rule. And I had to push our original recording of this podcast because of some family and business issues that came up. And it was good. It ended up being a blessing in disguise because on Friday, March 5th, we're recording this on Saturday 6th, they actually entered the rule into the register, which means it becomes effective 60 days from the day that it's entered. And so that would put us at May 4th. Is that right?
Yeah, May 4th, and then basically you add 18 months to that. It pushes us out to like November of 2022, where they start
So
enforcement.
the 18 months is So the 18 months is that transition period, right? So the transition period, how this works is the SEC enters a rule, 60 days it goes effective, and then there's a transition period, which gives not only firms the time to get compliant, but really the SEC time to figure out how to enforce it. So it's kind of weird because it's like they pass this rule, and then they're going to start seeing how people up doing it, and then decide on how to enforce it. So I've always taken the stance. Look, I'll look at this on month 19, but to each their own, right? So Jeff, what are the three key parts? There's a lot going on with this. We're not going to unpack all of this in 20
Right.
minutes. What are the three key parts that we want to talk about here, or about the rule in general?
Yeah, I mean, this essentially what we're doing, right? Setting the stage for what we're excited about, and I think there are three key terms or situations that you need to be aware of. It's pretty simple, right? A testimonial. This is something that it just means that you have an existing client who is going to speak in some form or fashion, whatever media process there on behalf of you, right? They're going to tell their story of why you're just the greatest thing since sliced bread, how you help them and so forth. So the next thing is the endorsement. And the endorsement is, just briefly think about you're going to pay a celebrity or a blogger, or you're going to really compensate someone for saying something about you. I always laugh every time I see Tom Selleck, all right, puking his guts out about reverse mortgages and how it's the greatest thing ever, as if he's ever going to have to do a reverse mortgage, right? But that's a paid endorsement. And then the third thing is something that really I'm excited about is the fact that, the third party rating services, because that's, think of a Yelp. You're going to go figure out where you're going to go eat to dinner, go out to dinner, Open Table or Yelp or Google review, right? You're trying to figure out what to do. You look for the simple review to try and get a feel for what's out there. Well, we've never been able to do that in our industry, right? It's testimonials and rating services and all that jazz. I mean, yeah, we have to ditch it. So now we'll be able to do something along that lines, and there are obviously rules we're not going to go super deep in, but those are the three key pieces that are kind of game changers in this space.
Okay, cool. I've been responsible on and off for compliance at the firm for quite some time, and I've always taken the stance you should understand what you are supposed to disclose before you make the advertisement. Reason being is because you might not want to actually make it after you figure out all the disclosures that you're required to make. So before you and I jump into the benefits of doing this,
Right.
I wanted to point out that the 5
Absolutely.
key disclosures that you have to pick. So the first one is the testimonial or endorsement given by a current client? That needs to be spelled out. Was there cash or non-cash compensation provided? If you offer $20 gift certificates to all your clients to write a testimonial, you have to disclose that underneath the testimonial, by the way.
Yeah, and this is actually, I want to insert just briefly, just for clarity. Like, there are certain guidelines that go from testimonial, which is normally a client. I said endorsement is typically some outside non-client person. But if compensation rules fall in there, you can create a testimonial, can become an endorsement. So anyway, yeah, definitely. It's to your point, right? You got to understand these.
Way to confuse them even more. But no,
but that's the point.
It's so confusing.
Right, that's
it's
the
so
point.
confusing. But you're right.
You have to understand.
So the third point is the terms of the compensation. So you actually have to you can't just say, yeah, they were compensated. You have to list out the terms of that compensation. Any material conflicts of interest that you have. And conflicts of interest is something that you should disclose, no matter what you do, but you have to disclose that here. And the fifth one, which I found interesting, is you have to disclose any material conflicts of interest by the promoter as a result from your advisory relationship. So let's not unpack that too much, because that can go down a weird path. But those are the 5 things that you have to really pay attention to.
Yeah, no, that's good to have those listed. So now we've spent more than we do on an average podcast talking about sort of the ground rules or the some of the details, laying the groundwork for the podcast. So what we really want to get to, the meat of this, is why in the hell are we excited about this? I mean, why does this rule matter? You mentioned on Industry Gossip that this rule even existed, right? Was it underrated or overrated? But fire away, man. Why is it that you're excited about this? What do you think? What is this? Why does this matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is huge. I think the advisors I talk to, at least, are underestimating the power of this. We as humans, and in this generation, we search for everything on the internet, right? The old saying, you go to social to entertain yourself, you go to Google to search for stuff.
Right.
And so advisors have always had their hands tied behind their back because they're not able to come up on Google rankings. They're not able to come up on review sites. I mean, think about it. You go to Amazon. What do? I order it by Prime and ratings. I go to Yelp. What do? I order it by ratings. And so, we search for everything. And this gives the advisors in your local area now the ability to participate in that search functionality. And to your point earlier, I think you had mentioned this a couple times where, having a client explain or give a testimonial of how much you've benefited their lives, it's 100 times better than you making a brochure with 2 people on the beach holding hands. Like, it's an actual person explaining how you made their life better. That's powerful.
Not only that, but I think, I'm going to take the flip side of this a little bit, because one of the most awkward conversations that we as advisors ever have to have with clients is when, they don't know our rules, and they go out to our Facebook page or they go out to our whatever, and they say, "Oh, you guys are awesome, man. Thanks so much for the help. It was incredible, blah, blah, blah." And what do we have to do? Hey, appreciate it, but can you kindly remove that gracious comment, because that falls under the testimonial rule, and I can't have that on the website, or on the whatever it is. And now at least there's some, finally, even though there are rules and there are disclosures and whatever, now at least those kinds of things can happen, because that conversation sucked.
Well, there were some compliance people that would say, like, if a client liked a post of yours, you couldn't disable likes, but you had, I don't know, I read something where someone was saying you got to tell them not to like it or something stupid, where
it's ridiculous.
It just, this opens it up. And so I think it matters because the SEC is finally catching up to where the world is moving, or the world has already moved when it comes to endorsements, testimonials, et cetera. Now, look, there can be a lot of abuse, and I hope that there's some way of curtailing that. because disclosures in itself are great, but it doesn't necessarily curtail abuse. And that's probably a part two of this. So where does this have material impact in your mind?
Yeah, well, so I think one of the areas is just simply growth strategies, right? I mean, I know, from the standpoint of how do you grab new clients, right? How do you get new clients? Well, 80% of advisors will say referrals. Well, that's great, but the only way they were able to get a referral was literally basically a conversation, right? There wasn't any, oh, well, I've posted this thing and somebody else, the spider web of the internet, if nothing else, right? This client says, hey, great, you really saved me. This was so helpful. And then three other people who happen to know that person because they posted see that post. Then they go, oh, wait a minute, scratch, scratch, scratch. I need that same kind of help. That doesn't exist up to this point. And so now I think from a growth strategy that you need to think about your marketing process, because now it's still technically a referral, right? You can still say that, but there are opportunities to make that referral bandwidth so much bigger. So that's the first thing on my list.
Well, one thing you added in on this on our teamwork document that I want to take is the niche marketing.
Yeah,
I thought
absolutely.
It was a really powerful statement where, right now, let's say you're on your site and you can say, I help people with HSAs. That's really it, right? Whereas now you can actually have a client say, listen, I had a situation where, I was using high deductible plans and I kept saving for all these HSAs, and this advisor helped me get it invested and yada, yada, yada. It's just a very different story than I help people with this, right? And so that niche marketing aspect, which a lot of people are gravitating towards that, right? On Twitter, I see it all the time, people who focus on dentists and medical professionals, whatever it is. I think this is where testimonials and endorsements are going to be huge for folks that are in niches.
100%. 100%. That's absolutely a big deal. Now, there's another area, though, that I think is pretty cool, and that's just simple brand awareness. I mean, you don't have, like I say, you don't have to delete the compliments. You don't have necessarily, you can focus on whatever your niche is. You can take a slightly different bent on how you get your brand out there. Now, not every firm, I realize not every advisor is necessarily real focused on brand awareness, but I still think there's an opportunity to create that aura about your firm that didn't exist before.
I agree. I agree.
And like I said, the referral network, it's real simple. The fact that suddenly becomes a much more broad circumstance. And, I know one advisor who has a whole bunch of associations with other, lawyers and CPAs and so forth. And that's kind of their referral network rather than the direct clients themselves. Well, hey, guess what? How can you help that CPA? Now you might be able to have the CPA discuss how, you've helped them in their business by taking this, situation. And again, it's just a matter of there are so many opportunities here. You've got to be aware of the testimonial versus endorsement, etc. But the fact that we can now finally do some of these things is incredibly exciting.
Well, I was shout out to Max at Stark and Stark, because I was on his Snappy Crapping webinar, and one of the things that he brought up, at its core, you can now request a testimonial from a client, add it to your site, and then advertise it. And yes, there's a lot of disclosures around that, but at its core, that's one of the main functions of this. And how you use that, as we just discussed, can go in 20 different directions. But that's its core. So that to me is the biggest takeaway in terms of what the benefit is for the advisor. Anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, like you said, the compensation, we're not going to go into all those details. Just be aware to pay attention there. But I think it's, it's that next step, right? We're finally, you said it a little bit ago, you corrected yourself, like, it's not where we're going, but we're kind of playing catch up. I 100% agree. We are finally walking into the right century when it comes to these things. Everybody and their mother picks up their phone and does some sort of a search for a review to see what's out there for their shoes, their food, their doctor, their whatever. And our industry is like the only one that couldn't do it. So What else? What other benefits do you see for advisors in this space?
I think the SEO and like you said, the rankings for those who are tech forward. I mean, the type of search terms you can now rank for. For example, you know, if you say the best advisor in, you know, Maryland, for example, you can actually, you know, if your site has that testimonial, you know, you're going to start ranking higher for those search terms. And so
Yeah.
it whereas before you couldn't write that, right? It was too promissory or whatnot. So
Well, here's
I think for those,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, so here's one of the things that I think is a differentiator. We've talked about this a little bit in person versus face to face, right? How has your firm, if your firm has really kicked ass through the pandemic and all that stuff, and you've sort of figured out a way to create kind of both ends of the spectrum in service, what a great thing to do a testimonial on, rather than, oh, well, my guy's performance or my gal's performance is better than everybody else, right? It's about that, you know, some of you might have a couple of testimonials where we love coming to the office and they really create a warm environment and blah blah blah, and a couple testimonials that, you know what, we actually moved to Oregon from Florida, and now we're still able to keep our advisor because we just do Zoom meetings, and it's really opened up taking some pressure off of us, and, you know, whatever. So it's just another example, right? Don't always be thinking about performance. Sometimes it could be the client experience.
Yeah, I agree. And so to
Yeah.
wrap this up, I can't reiterate enough. Make sure you understand all the compliance requirements, okay? Have it mapped out. Do not go at this half-ass. Have it mapped out because, for example, you need to understand now what to do if there's a negative review. You can't just go delete it. You know, what if that client was never a client of yours to begin with? You can go petition Google. There are all these ins and outs that you really need to map out before you do this. So, honestly, you should probably not do anything until month 19. I know there's going to be firms that are going to jump on this. That's whatever you feel comfortable with. Potomac, for example, will probably just wait till month 19 and make sure that the rules are mapped out completely. So first and foremost, understand what the disclosures are, what the requirements, the details, all that things are that you're going to need to go through to get this off the ground. We would love to hear how people implement this. You know, so any feedback at all, let us know. And we're going to scour sites over the next, 6 to 9 months just to see what people are doing with these testimonials. Someone's going to get creative. Someone's going to do things that are going to get them locked up. It's going to run the gamut. It's a Wild West. I'm telling you, because you can do it right now technically. I guess on May 4th. But there's still no guideline really. So it's like someone is going to take it and run with it, and it's going to be exciting to see. I mean, maybe we need to get lives here, but I feel like I'm getting all geeked up to see how these people are going to use this stuff.
Well, look, the reality is when it comes to regulatory, I always laugh because it's just the fact that the way this whole system is set up, it's not about here's the rules and here's how you have to implement it, and here's how, we're going to enforce it. It's here are the rules. We're going to wait and see what everybody does, and then we'll decide what we like and don't like, and then we're going to enforce what we think you should have done. So definitely be cautious, but it's still exciting time. So let's hit this, man. What do you have for a recommendation? What's your recommendation this week, Manish?
Okay, I was really against buying this, right? It's a Roomba i7, one of those automatic machine vacuum cleaners.
Loser.
So my parents were like, "This is." Yeah, my parents were like, "This is awesome. This is awesome. Go look at it." And I bought it. And listen, it's actually awesome. Like I love this thing. Like you let it run, maybe when the kids are taking a nap or you leave for the day, whatever it is, and it just bounces around the house, and you actually empty a pretty full what do you call it, vacuum tray or whatever. I know. Hold on.
Obviously, I know.
Hold on. You have to have a flat surface. You can't have a RV, so don't jump in here with some comment about an RV. And you can't have a lot of stairs and things like that. So you have to have a setup for it, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, so. I know you're the guy that's gonna set Moxie on this Roomba and do a TikTok video. It's some shit.
I don't have TikTok, but sure. I'll make one.
Anyway, all right. So just for you, bro, I am wearing the shirt the shirt that you hated my purple shirt. So
Wait,
I am recommending.
I want to tell the story.
All right, you go for it.
No, stop. You got to stop. So Jeff has this fucking ugly purple shirt that has some logo on it that he kept wearing. So I DM'd his wife and I said, please, when he's not looking, poke a hole in this, throw it away, do something. And she was, of course, Kim's a trooper. She's like, I'm on it. And so you decided to be a and do what? Buy the exact same shirt in a different color?
Yeah, and there's no logo. So, look, for $20, you can get the most comfortable polo that's wrinkle resistant, UPF 15 or something. You can pick your color. Whoop, whoop. Hey, there you go. There you go. I'll do a little meme action for, get a little animated GIF action for Martina to play with there. But look, I love this shirt. That's all there is. So I got another one. There. Tough it out, buddy. Tough it out.
Can you make an actual coherent recommendation? Like, what's the name of the shirt? That kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, as always, in the show notes, it'll reference, but it's Harrington is the name of the shirt. And I just went out and found it on Amazon, the exact same shirt. There you go. Hey, and think about this. If you want to do some of your own branding, it's a good shirt to work with because for $20, that's cheap enough. And it's very comfortable. So, there you go. Simple recommendation.
Well, so marketing is going to compile all of these recommendations and release it in a video of some sort. I wonder if anyone actually goes out and buys or uses anything based on anything we have to say.
Maybe they'll make a comment on the bottom of the YouTube video that, hey, I tried this shirt. It's awesome.
It's awesome. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate your time, of course, Jeff, and everyone who is listening or watching. Our YouTube channel is blowing up. You have to get on this rocket ship. We are superstar actors and actresses here at Potomac. And subscribe, smash the like button, do all that jazz. We love you. Thank you for your time. We're hustling. We're recording on a Saturday here while you guys are sitting out drinking somewhere. So we hope you like the content, and thank you for participating. Have a good one.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Adios.